Hello, friends. I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. How would it be if I just sat here and read this newspaper instead of? Is this weird? When was the last time you saw a newspaper? This is something that my local we have a newspaper here. I think it's still in existence. They started doing this a few years ago, like 5 years ago or so, called the Marion Times. It's a free weekly little what's going on in the community. I really like it. I'm glad they do this because I'm not the kind of person to read the daily news. I don't give a shit. Speaking of, in case you aren't aware, YouTube is a platform that you can monetize and make a living doing for people who do that. And over the last month or so, there's been a whole bunch of YouTubers announcing their, I guess, retirement from the platform or their restructuring or whatever. I don't know. Good for them, right? They found a way to make a living out of this, and that's fantastic. That's not necessarily what I want to talk about, but adjacent to that. You guys know I follow three particular people here, and on their podcasts and everything that they do, and those three people are David Picciuto, Jimmy DiResta, and Bob Clagett. Those three people have a podcast called Making It. I listen to it every week. I think they're very grounded. They're very much like me. Especially Bob and Dave are my age. Jimmy's 10 years older than everybody. But the three of them are they together. That's me, right? Not saying skill wise. I just mean personality wise. I identify with all three of them, and they are different personalities. But they talked on this week's podcast. Bob did. And I need to find the video. He's referenced this twice now. 2 weeks in a row, he's referenced this video. But the idea was the idea that I wanted to think about or to bring to you was the idea of deprofessionalizing your job. Now, obviously, there's a lot of jobs where that's not an option. There's a lot of jobs where you just can't do that. But that's what Bob has kind of taken that to heart. He's kind of just going back to just having fun with it and not worrying about it professionally, which has given him, it's reinvigorated him. And I could say that me not being professional about this thing that we do, is the reason, one of the biggest reasons why I'm still doing it. I think that if this channel would have grown and turned into an income source that I could rely on, and would have turned into a business and would have turned into had enough of a following to do that, I think it would have fell apart very quickly. I don't do well with that. I'm not a business person. I am when I have to be. But in my personal life, I choose not to be, right? I've chosen my career path. I've picked a career path very specifically to keep me out of management roles. I mean, I'm a project manager, so that's, whatever. But I'm not the one making decisions. Again, a project manager I am, but I'm making those decisions under a clearly defined set of rules, which is key. Listening to these people talk about their exodus from YouTube or whatever, it all comes down to they got big enough that they could afford help. They bought help, or they bought help. That's problematic. They hired help, and now there's this pressure of these X people are dependent upon them to provide salaries and whatever, and that takes the joy. I listened to Jimmy today talk about how he doesn't really do client work anymore because he just doesn't, the expectation of the client is, he doesn't want to deal with it. It's not what interests him. He wants to make things that he wants to make. He wants to be able to say no to things he doesn't want to make. And that's what he's been doing, and he's absolutely in love with it. um, and thinking about my own personal, you know, uh, approach to life. I have always had ambition, but I'm very cautious about it because ambition can turn into this seething, like, manic thing that is destructive for me. And so I approach my ambitions cautiously, patiently, knowing that they might not pay off this year, but maybe next year. You know, look at the train game I've worked on for 3 years now. I It's not going to get published this year. It probably won't get published next year. Maybe 26, 27, somewhere around there. That game might come out. If I find a publisher, great. If I have to do it, it might be 2030. It might be a long way away. And I don't care. Like, that wasn't the point, right? If I had to do it as a job, if that was going to be my income, I don't deal well with that. And so I take those ambitions and I just put them on this slow path. I take my jobs and I put them on this path. Like, all right, I'm going to make a comfortable salary and that's what I need, you know? Chasing that, like, chasing the dollars, chasing the whatever, that doesn't work for me. I would rather work for 40 hours for a person, and have expectations and have them understood between us, and I make a comfortable living, and I don't have to stress about where my next bill is going to come from, you know, whatever. I don't have to, you know, this week I've been dealing with some behind the scenes business stuff for my clients, like my personal clients, and I have to, you know, figure out how to pay this thing, and it's just, you know, I don't. That just blows my mind. I listened to another show I listened to this week. Well, I've listened to all of them. Is Tosh Show. If you guys are familiar with Daniel Tosh, he's done a YouTube podcast for the last couple of months called Tosh Show, not Tosh.0, Tosh Show. And this week he interviewed his personal stylist, is what he calls her, and I guess she was like on all of his shows. She's dressed him, and listening to her talk, I've always known that the media industry was a like it was like she was a gig worker. She was a 1099 contractor. She was never an employee of X company. And listening to her, you know, he talked about, you know, how much they would spend on his wardrobe each season, and she mentioned during the show that was all on her personal credit cards, which is just a little bit mind-blowing. Like, I'm doing the same thing. I have a personal credit card that I'm using for my clients, for client work, and if I need to go somewhere, whatever, I'll charge it and then they just pay me back. But thinking about, you know, an $80,000 costume budget on her personal credit card, that's like terrifying to me. That's just absolutely terrifying. But the alternative is saying, I'm going to hitch my wagon to this place, and maybe that place will give me a business card, and I get to do my thing. But I'm stuck, right? I don't mind being stuck. I very much enjoy my job. I have a great job with a wonderful team, and I get paid very well. And there's no reason for me to give that up. Like, even if my client work starts to generate a significant income, there's no reason that I'm just, you know, not doing it. My day job is a quality day job. It's one of those jobs that you would die for. But I will say, I got to deprofessionalize, to go back to it. I got to deprofessionalize my job 4 years ago now, when I started working from my couch. And that has been so good, right? Because that business, like going into the office and having the meetings and the business stuff, and it's so much easier to deal with those things when I know that I'm in a comfortable place. I'm wearing comfortable clothing. I'm not putting on a show for somebody. This is literally just, we got to do this business. Cool, let's do this business. Now I get to move on with the rest of my day. Whereas in an office environment, there's let's do this business and then let's spend 10 minutes talking about this business and then I'm going to follow you into the bathroom while we finish this discussion. Like, I don't want all that. I'm very much a professional, but I don't have to put on a costume. And I don't necessarily mean a uniform. I just mean like put on the airs of being a professional. And I think that here, going back to talking to you guys, I like the fact that I've never had to turn this into, I have to do this. I don't ever have to do this. This isn't something I have to do because I'm relying on this. I'm relying on this emotionally. Like, trust me, this is some amazing therapy. But I'm not relying on this fiscally to the point that I have to come down here every day. Because if I did, I don't think it would get done. I think I would have already abandoned it. But to those people that did and they made it a successful run and they put 10 years in and now they have enough money to relax, friggin' awesome. Go for it, you know? I'll just relax along the way. I won't have money at the end of it and I won't have, you know, a nest egg and be able to retire in 50, but that's okay. I like working. I don't mind it. What do you got going on this weekend? I think I'm going to be mostly alone, at least for Saturday. Everybody's going to do stuff. My kid's going to do regional theater stuff. Malia's going to visit her family. I think I'm going to come down here and clean this mess some. And I've got the project that I need to get done very quickly, like 3 weeks or so, that I'm going to try to knock out this weekend. What do you got going on? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word to show to sound smart is topography. It is a noun meaning the arrangement of the physical features of a place, area, or physical object, the lay of the land. After her return from Europe, Lauren spent most of her time talking about the dazzling alpine topography of Switzerland. Topography. Topography. Yeah, Switzerland. I got to see some of that. I was in the Switzerland, in an airport, and I got to see the Swiss Alps out the window. That was pretty cool because here are, quote, mountains, not very mountainous, just big hills. There, actual mountains.